Thursday's episode tightens the screws on loyalties, secrets and fear across two cities, and every beat lands on people who have to choose between protecting what they love and facing uncomfortable truths. The Abbott parental unit's rallying behind Kyle isn't just a perfunctory show of family unity, it feels like an all-in moment. Jack and Diane giving Kyle their full support suggests they believe whatever plan he's pursuing has real stakes. It could be backing him in the boardroom fight to protect Jabot from outside meddling, it could be a green light on a risky gambit to expose whoever's pulling strings in LA, or it could be the emotional blessing Kyle needs to double down on winning Claire back. The subtext is that the Abbotts aren't one-off cheerleaders here. They're lining up behind their son because they see the cost of inaction, not only to the company but to Harrison and to Kyle's sense of himself. That support gives Kyle power, but it also forces him to make a harder choice. Use that backing to defend the family business, or use it to prioritize his son's heartache and possibly jeopardize Jabot. Noah, filling in the blanks, promises a plot beat that will shift the LA chessboard by bringing context to the chaos. When Noah finally explains what he's been doing since he left Genoa City, who he's aligned with, what threats he's uncovered, and whether Sienna or Mitch/Bacall figures into the mess, viewers get the emotional breadcrumb trail that rewrites loyalties. If Noah reveals new alliances or a near-death escape, it humanizes him and gives weight to whatever vendetta or revelation he's carrying. If he's evasive or only gives a teaser of his time away, it sets up suspicion and a slow-burn reveal. Either way, Noah's answers will change how his parents and the audience read every interaction that follows. His backstory could explain attempts on people's lives, why Claire might be laying low, or even why Matt/Mitch seems to be back in some fashion. Noah telling his parents directly would create an intense, private reckoning. Dropping hints for viewers only would create dramatic irony and let the audience watch the other characters scramble while knowing more than they do. Nick's worry about Sharon isn't optional drama, it's the emotional core of this particular fear. Sharon has been a recurring target of obsessive, violent behavior for years, and Nick's paranoia that Mitch Bacall could be Matt Clark again isn't paranoia so much as history repeating itself. The show has built a long catalog of people who fixate on Sharon. Every time someone new shows up who resembles an old threat, the stakes spike because Sharon's past trauma makes her especially vulnerable. Nick's protectiveness will likely manifest as over-the-top gatekeeping, insisting Sharon take precautions, pushing her away from risky situations, and maybe even clashing with her when she refuses to be treated like an invalid. That friction creates two possible outcomes. Either Sharon accepts Nick's sheltering and the pair grow closer under pressure, or Sharon lashes out at being infantilized, opening space for the supposed Mitch to exploit her independence. Either way, the specter of Matt Clark means every small coincidence, a look, a phrase, a hometown detail, will be magnified and tested, which makes every scene with Mitch feel like it could tilt into violence at any second. Weaving these threads together, the episode sets up a simple but effective choice architecture for each character. For Kyle, the Abbott endorsement hands him leverage but also expectation. The audience will be watching to see whether he spends that leverage on corporate defense or on a personal rescue mission for Harrison's broken heart. For Claire, if she's watching from a distance or choosing to stay away, Kyle's rallying of the family could feel like pressure rather than help, and that tension will define whether she re-enters Kyle's orbit reluctantly or shuts it down to preserve the new path she's testing. For Noah, divulging his truth is a pivot point. Honesty could repair trust and galvanize allies, while secrecy keeps him isolated and makes him a wild card. And for Nick and Sharon, the conversation about safety versus autonomy will be raw and intimate, showing how fear can either knit people closer or snap the fragile trust that keeps them together. What makes Thursday especially watchable is how fear, loyalty and secrets are all weaponized in different ways. A parental blessing becomes leverage, a reveal becomes ammunition, a friend's concern becomes control. The writers are clearly stacking small personal choices to catalyze bigger consequences. One decision about who to support, one confession about what you've been doing, and one moment of protective panic will ricochet across relationships and business machinations. Expect scenes that aren't just expository but emotionally charged, quiet conversations with raised voices, looks that say more than words, and at least one moment where a character must swallow pride to do what's right. Finally, the episode's tempo suggests fallout is immediate rather than gradual. Kyle's backing from Jack and Diane probably means moves in the boardroom or behind-the-scenes counter-moves will happen fast. Noah's revelations will shift how the LA pieces align this week, and Nick's vigilance about Sharon is likely to produce an on-the-spot action that either prevents a crisis or forces a confrontation. In short, Thursday's installment promises emotional truth, tactical maneuvering, and the kind of tense interpersonal arbitration that drives the rest of the week's plotting. It's less about neat resolutions and more about choices that make the coming days unavoidably messy.